This is VScript, songwriter, A&R, and producer. You are now watching Nolazine TV. Let's go.
So, actually, before we start this interview, we're going to give you all your flowers, from coming from New Orleans, coming to Atlanta, making your name, being Grammy nominated.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people don't know that you won Hellified Dancer. We're gonna jump into all that, but I want to give you all your flowers right now before we start this.
Appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it.
So I already told everyone that you actually from New Orleans. So I want you to explain how it was, for you growing up in New Orleans.
Growing up in New Orleans, man, it was a lot of fun, just being tapped into the culture, and you know how we do it, man, Mardi Gras, and it's just, family, super family orientated, man. So I remember growing up, man, every weekend my family get together, whether it's for the parade, if it was parade season, whether it's for birthdays, parties. So that's one thing about being from New Orleans, like the culture, the food, it always bring our families together. So we spend a lot of time with each other. So family is an important thing to us.
Okay. So actually, before we talk about music and writing and all that, how did you get into dancing?
So
dance.
It started out, man. So with dancing and stuff, bro, I used to look up to. I remember growing up seeing, in New Orleans it was flexing. It was flexing. So I used to look up to the groups like Street Fighters, the Power Rangers, and stuff like that. And so, from
Matter
there.
of fact, he's speaking on Street Fighters. I belong live on that Fifth Wall Weeby.
Fifth Wall Weeby, for sure.
I had to throw that in there.
Yes. So seeing them guys, because those guys was before me, and me and my brother, we started our group called Fire and Ice. So me and him got together and we started dancing. That's what we want to do. So based off being inspired by those guys, we started that, and we just started going around different high school talent shows and shit. We was winning them shits from West Jeff, St. Aug, St. Mary's, Xavier Prep. We used to win all the talent shows around the city. So and we started taking it super serious, So then around that time, I want to say the transition into the B2K era. So that's when stuff we started transitioning to 8 counts and stuff like that. And man, we got even so far to where we wound up connecting with one of our good friends, Maquita and AJ. They went to John Eric, and now they are professional choreographers, dancing for Beyonce, dancing for Marion, and etc. So we linked up with them, and then we took it to another level, and we won this competition that Marion had through called Bring It, with just a choreographer, Roro, and my guy, Calvin. So that's how we got into the dancing. So we took it that far, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so but now we're gonna jump into the most important. When did you first started writing music?
So it's funny, man. So being my background come from dancing and always being into music and always analyzing, I started out poetry. So poetry was first to me before I even knew I was gonna be a songwriter. So after dancing, I started getting into poetry. So I started going around writing. I started writing poems, and then I remember I want to say it was either after Katrina or before Katrina, we had this thing called True Brute. They used to go down every Wednesday, Smut, my boy Hollywood and them. Them guys used to put that on downtown in New Orleans, and so I used to go there and recite the poems that I used to write. And my poetry always had a rhythm to it. So one day, I'll never forget, I was working at AT&T, and this was after Hurricane Katrina. I had met my best friend. His name is Earl. I met him because we worked in the AT&T kiosk. And so from there, I used to carry my poetry book that I used to do all my writing in. So he heard one of my poems. He was like, bro, you good, but your shit, it don't sound like a poem. It got rhythm to it. You ever thought about songwriting? And so that's what kind of sparked that. And then one day he was helping this guy named Diesel. So, you know, a lot of people, Diesel from New Orleans, he did Lollipop for Lil Wayne, Mrs. Officer for Lil Wayne, Let the Beat Build for Lil Wayne. So that was one of his clients. And so he told him about me. And then Diesel invited me to his studio. And then from there, he heard my poems. He was like, yo, they sound like songs. He was like, yo, let me just teach you how to write melody. And from that day on, I never wrote another poem. Everything I did from there was songs.
Okay, so like, you know, I've been, you know, researching about being songwriters and different things like this. And I hear like all the backstories, the art stories. Like, I want to jump into straight to this. Like, how does one songwriter get paid? For like people who don't know, because everybody won't be a music artist, but like people don't know about, you know, the background of an artist putting their music out. Like, you know, they got the songwriters are like actually like one of the most like important things of the industry, like far as R&B,
Right.
mainly.
Right. So, I mean, with songwriters, you get paid off your royalty. You know what I'm saying? So you got to make sure when you register your songs and you make it so you get your percentage right on your songs, whether you're collabing with somebody or whether it's just like you writing a song by yourself. You got to make sure you register, you know, whether that's with ASCAP, BMIs, and etc. So you just put your stuff into that, and then that's how you get paid. You get paid off your royalties and stuff like that. Then when you wind up getting big records, like when you start being consistent and you start charting on charts, then you can, as a songwriter, you can start requesting fees from major labels and stuff like that, just to show up and write, and still get your royalties and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how it goes to get paid by a songwriter. Then you got syncs. There's all kind of different things. You got where a song may get synced in a movie, you get a sync fee, a licensing fee for them to license the song. So yeah, it's multiple ways. Every time even when you in the elevator, you hear a song that you wrote coming on the elevator, you get paid. BMI or ASCAP, they're collecting that for you.
Gotcha. So like being a songwriter, you know, if I actually watched what her name is, Money Long's interview, and she was like, you know, being a writer was kind of hard because she was like, if you go to these studios with these bigger artists and they like feel intimidated by you, like, you know. But you probably sing the song better than them, or you probably dress better than them. They don't like that. So it's like, I want to hear, what battles, that you had to go through in the industry.
Well, for me, man, I always read the room. I always read the room in whatever room I walk in, because you don't want to go in there so cocky. You don't want to go in that room doing too much. Your job is to assist. So as a songwriter, your job is to assist the artist with their vision. So I always read the room, play my role. I never really had any hiccups with any artists because I can say I do a good job at reading the room. So I play my position, I play my part into where I need to be for that moment to make the whole thing make sense. So, but they have times where you may be in a session with another writer and this writer is doing too much and the artist is just making the artist uncomfortable. Or they may have some sessions where the artist is just having a bad day and you catch them on a bad day. So I mean, we gotta realize that, you know, artists, we all are human. So we all go through different things. So you can catch somebody on a good day, you can catch somebody they must, you know, on a bad day. So that's just how it is sometimes. But I would say mostly you have to read the room.
Gotcha. So how did you come up on, I don't want to say, but it's your songwriting name, but I'm gonna just ask, how did you come up with VScript?
So they used to always call me the songs I used to write stuff was very descriptive. So descriptive, I'm sorry. So one of my best friends, Earl, he's always like, yo, this shit feel like movie scripts. And so that's how I started taking the V and then I put it to script, and then after that, it just stuck with me. Everybody started calling me script, and everybody felt like, you know, the songs was like stories, and they could see it detail, like the whole, they used to follow through the stories I write. So just like one of the biggest songs I wrote locally in New Orleans was Nobody for my cousin Rance Davis, and that was actually a feeling, you know what I'm saying? That was a real song that, you know, something that I went through, that I put it on paper and pulled it out, you know. So, and till to the day, that's his biggest song.
Right. And like, as I think about like you have to be like in a different space to be a songwriter, because you gotta go through those things. I used to be like, how does Neo write these great songs for like women and men? It's like, so you have to like at least pay attention to a lot of different things.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention to a lot of things. You gotta put yourself You know, because a lot of stuff, it might not be something personally that you went through. It may be something that you saw somebody else went through, and then you just have to immerse yourself into your emotions and put yourself in that position and just think of it from that perspective. So that's kind of what it is. So, you know what I'm saying, looking at it from different angles, you know.
Gotcha. So, what's the average day like on like songwriter?
For me, man, sessions on sessions. You know, for me, building my artist, Quintelli that I'm working with, my other artist, Damani, my other artists that I work with, Risa. So, like, when I'm not working on placements, I'm building them, helping build them, helping cater to their career and their journey and their path. So that's kind of like my day-to-day basis. Like, you know, I may get a call to, yo, Chris Brown looking. Or I may get a call, yo, you know, such and such looking. And so making sure I balance everything. Balance getting placements and balance, you know, with the artists that I work with, that my passion projects, you know.
Gotcha. So, like, as one songwriter, I'm like, what would you say, what's your biggest song, out there so far?
I would say right now it's Chris Brown Cab. That's my biggest song to date.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, you know, just speaking on Chris Brown, like, you know, I like Chris Brown, my favorite R&B artist of all time.
Yeah.
Like, people on it, like, I really think he better. Like, in my opinion, I think he better than Michael Jackson. Just like 50 Cent said, I never saw Michael Jackson sing and do a backflip and land on one leg and still dance. Like,
yeah.
He's just different. Like,
yeah.
He's athletic. He does it all. And like, he don't get the credit because, you know, prior things he did.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear out of your words. Do you think Chris Brown is the closest thing acting to Michael Jackson?
Yes.
Okay.
Hands down. He's the closest. It's just the only difference that he doesn't have that Michael had. Michael had the best of the best. Okay. The team around him. Michael had the triangle offense. So I feel like Chris, as far as ability and gift, yes. But I think if he had a Phil Jackson around him.
But the Chris part is he still have time. That's how young he was
he
who came in this.
Yeah, he still got time. You know,
like, he already accomplished so much, but he still could accomplish more.
And then you got to think about it too. Michael came in an era where classic albums matter.
Right.
Body of work matter. Chris Prime is in the singles game. You know, the game is, that's why you can't really, I really truly believe you can't compare the eras, because Chris is now heavily in the streaming era.
Right.
So it's different. So, you know, bodies of work are not looked at like how we looked at bodies of work back then.
Right.
And then we don't have the time to process a body of work because everything is like fast paced now. For as when Michael was in, it just was like you had to take your time. You had to make sure the album was flawless from top to bottom, because that's how you got your reps. So it's just they're on the same level. It's just different eras.
Right. And like, I just saw Akon speak on. He like, man, Chris Brown just don't have that right team behind him yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Like, if he get that team, I think it's a whole nother level.
It's a whole nother level. He gets with a musician. He gets with someone. He gets with a Barry Gordy. He's gone.
Right. I'm gonna speak on R&B. Like, even you moving from New Orleans to Atlanta, like, because, you know, I interviewed your cousin Rance, and he was like, you know, he made it to, like, you know, like certain levels in New Orleans. He still felt like he wasn't there. Like, people didn't want to pay him and different things. So how do you feel like, because, you know, like, New Orleans has breeded, like, probably like some top R&B artists, from Frank Ocean to Lucky D to Wolf James, like, but all of them didn't get success in New Orleans.
Yeah. See, Rance to me is the first.
Right. Rance was on the radio and get success.
Yeah, he's the first. I think it's so crazy. So even around that time with Rance, right, when his record was played on the radio, people like you, people like the tastemakers in the city, like that's in the industry, in the music industry, they know it was him. But just your average person waking up, when they heard his songs on the radio, it felt like it was so big that they didn't believe it was from here.
Right.
So some people will walk that I remember I used to be out in the streets, and I used to, you know, run into certain people and I'd be like, yo, my cousin on the radio, blah, blah, blah. And they used to hit us, what song your cousin said? Yo, I thought that was Chris Brown. I thought that was Trey Songz.
That was Bobby Valentino.
Yeah, and they're saying that because it's big. I think the issue is, like, with New Orleans is so cultural that you have to have a bounce beat behind it to claim it as, yo, this from the city. because we're so cultural. When you think about places like Atlanta, you know, New York, their sound is it's universal versus, you know, being home, you know, mostly bounce music it stays local. Right. So I think that's the issue. That was what was so hard for us, because we had to fight through that to so he won't get viewed as a bounce artist. He would be viewed as an R&B artist. So, but the problem was if we didn't do a bounce song, we probably didn't capture majority.
And it was around the time that they was forcing R&B artists to do bounce songs. I remember Courtney Hart, it was kind of like, I did that bounce song, like, what else can you do?
Yeah, because I remember we had a record that we was about to come out called Sexy Girl with Fifth Wall Weeby. Okay. And at the time, the program director was DC, and he heard the record, and he was like, so honestly, bro, Nobody almost happened. The song Nobody, Sexy Girl was about to come first. So when DC heard Nobody, he was like, no, y'all can't drop Sexy Girl. We're gonna drop Nobody because this is gonna take him national. Right. And that's what happened.
Yeah. And that's history. And also I just told him, like, man, you was actually on the ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Like if social media was like what it is now, you probably would have had you probably would have had a real industry run. Yeah. Instead of just, you know, New Orleans and the few cities you hit.
Yeah. I mean, he would have had a different run if we grew up in Atlanta. Right. Making that music. And, you know what I'm saying? The opportunity would have been much more because Atlanta is an industry city. And labels are there. A&Rs are there. That's another thing too we don't have. So like that's what I plan on doing too, coming back home and once, you know, I get where I really want to be in.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you, like, do you think there would ever be a time where one actually R&B artist can actually grow in New Orleans?
Yeah, we just need outlets. You got to think about like Atlanta, like DTP stayed in Atlanta. Grand Hustle stayed in Atlanta doing their run. They didn't leave.
Yeah, I told you about, like, I said, I think By No Limit moving around and Cash Money moving to Miami, like, it kind of like hurting New Orleans as well. Yeah. Because just imagine if just Cash Money ran like that big empire in New Orleans. Like, a lot of people that saw Drake from New Orleans. Yeah. Like,
but also, too, another thing, too, man, it's dangerous.
Very.
It was dangerous for those guys to stay, too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When you see, you know, so you got to take, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know what I'm saying? You see those guys riding the cars here in Atlanta, that's normal. But in New Orleans, when you see guys coming in there, it's not normal because
it's you're automatically a target.
You're automatically a target. It's not a big city. Thanks. So that's another thing too. So those, like, I understand both sides. I understand from their perspective, and I understand looking from the outside, and you know.
Gotcha. So being in the music industry over 15, 20 years now, like, tell us what do you enjoy most about it. Tell us what do you actually on the hate about it, on the dislike about it. Tell us what you think.
You know, I think a lot of people. What I love about it is, you know, the process. The making music is always what I love about it. What I sometimes dislike is the politics. You have to move a certain way or do certain things within the politics, which takes from the music sometimes. So but also too, that's why it's called the music business, the music industry, because it's an industry, it's a business. So it's no different from the corporate world. Sometimes my uncle used to always tell me, yo, the best job doesn't go to who's the best. The best job goes to who's available. So you got to network, you got to build relationships and do these things because talent is not enough. Talent is not enough. You still have to have talent, but once those relationships get you in certain rooms, which highlight your talent. So it's always, to me, it's relationship first, talent second.
Gotcha. So, what separates you from all the like songwriters out there? Like, it like just out there right now.
I would say for me, man, I look at music different. I look at music based off of the, I dissect it, man. Like, not even just writing from the writing side of it, just understanding, looking at it from a consumer perspective. I always write songs from a consumer perspective because as long as you pay attention to culture and you pay attention to these things, like what's going on in culture, tapping into culture, the different lingos, I make sure I pay attention to all that stuff so I can stay relevant in it and still be able to produce hit songs, still be able to walk in the room with this person 10 years younger than me, but still can relate to that person and understand what they're saying, So that's what I would say for me. Like I always pay attention to staying relevant. And my mentor Rodney Jerkins has always like that's one of the things that he always pushed to me. Like, yo, keep youth around you, stay tapped in, and always pay attention to what's going on. Never get so big in the industry that you feel like you're bigger than the industry, because there's always a room that you're gonna walk in and you're gonna learn something. So I take that to heart. So that's why I would say that's where most of my success come from, because I'm able to adapt to that.
So how did you meet? I'm like Rodney Jerkins, and how did he become your, how did he become your mentor?
So me and Rodney, man, I did this record, and it was moving around the industry, and I had flew to LA. I flew to LA for this meeting with this other label, and so when I walked out the meeting, one of my homeboys called me, and he called me. I ain't see this guy in years. So he called me, and he was like, "Yo, bro, I'm by Rodney. Once you come through, said I want to introduce y'all." And then boom, went and met my homeboy by Rodney house, and then me and Rodney met. We clicked, and then from there on, it's just been history. The relationship, the mentorship, everything. And I think when he met me, man, he saw more in me just as a writer. You know what I'm saying? More than just a writer. Like he saw me, he saw the way I was moving, how I was, bringing pieces together, still writing songs, making sure that my team is in position to eat and all that stuff. So he admired that, and so he just took me under his wing and like just taught me everything, about the game, and because of him, bro, like that brother is like, he the reason why I'm at and the way I see things, the way I see, he is I 100% appreciate that mentorship. That relationship meant a lot to my career.
All right, gotcha. So tell us, what's next for you? Do you plan on starting your own, record label, with your own writing group, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so that's what already going on. Super Friends, SFM Music. So already doing that with the songwriters, producers, artists, developing artists, taking artists to the next level and stuff like that. So that's what I enjoy. Honestly, man, I enjoy that more than getting placements. Like my heart is like developing artists and seeing something from the beginning to the end, get to where it needs to be. And also too, man, I'm working on my project. So the VScript experience. So putting that together right now, man. So I'm about to transition into that too.
All right, gotcha. And also, but last but not least, tell everyone, what can they find you on social media and just everywhere?
You can find me on Instagram at VScript, TikTok at VScript, Facebook, Verdell VScript Muller. So that's all the places you can find me at. Believe that.
All right, we done.
Yes, sir.